Hi, I'm Tom Ziegler, your host for Success 2.0. No matter where you are in the world, we are glad that you are here with us today. We have a powerful presentation today by my good friend, Scott Turner. In fact, this presentation is so powerful that even though we recorded it just a little while ago, we wanted to have you see it live today. Scott's an amazing person. He's overcome incredible odds to achieve great things. And in the midst of it all, it didn't look like he had much of a chance. So you're going to really enjoy Scott's presentation. And even more importantly, I know you're going to learn something that's going to inspire you to achieve a new level of success. You know, one of the cool things about Success 2.0 is that we reach out all over the world. It's truly global. We'll have up to 40 different countries on one of these programs at the same time. So no matter where you are in the world, we are glad that you're here. Now let me tell you a little bit. I already said Scott Turner's doing the presentation. The title is I Refuse to Lose. So here are some housekeeping notes I want to cover with you. There is a note-taking handout which you can go ahead and download. It's on your screen if you haven't done that. And that's really cool because, you know, the paper and pen remember so much longer and better than our mind does. So if you get inspired about something that Scott says, go ahead and take down that note. We also have a chat feature. And this is really cool because we've developed kind of a global Success 2.0 community, which means no matter where you are, if you want to join the chat, you can just log into the chat right there. It tells you how to do that. And if you do that, we ask that you keep your comments and topics on purpose, on the subject, and really encourage each other in the chat room. We have a lot of fun in there. We get a lot of great feedback and ideas, and so we really appreciate that. And also, I'm going to be coming back for Q&A, question and answer. So if you have any questions about success, or maybe you're a small business owner, maybe you're kind of struggling and you want to understand how to apply one of the principles that Scott talks about into your own life, there is a question box. I believe it's up there at the right-hand top of your screen, and it's a little line. You just submit that question via email, and then Jill, who's awesome, she works with us at Ziegler. She's down in Austin, Texas. We're up in Plano. Jill takes those questions. She sends them to me into our studio, and we'll answer those at the end. So we want to handle as many of those questions as we can. One of the things I wanted to share with you is earlier today I was visiting with my dad. And one of the fun things that we like to do is we like to tell Dad his jokes. So here's one of the great funnies that he would tell on stage and just crack people up. You know, you've heard about geese, and there's a lot of leadership principles that go along with geese. If you've ever seen geese flying through the sky, you notice that they fly in a V formation. And the scientists have discovered that the reason they fly in that V formation is that when they fly in that V formation, the lead goose gets most of the wind resistance and takes off the pressure from the other geese that are in the formation. And they often, you know, you'll see confusion of the geese flying along as they switch places. The lead goose will drop back, another one will come up to the front. And so what they're doing is they're changing places and they're working as a team. And because they work as a team and everybody shares the load and everybody basically takes the brunt of the load at some point, the whole group is able to fly 30% farther. Now that's pretty cool. But scientists have also discovered that the honking noise that you hear is actually the geese behind the leader honking and encouraging the leader to keep going. And you know, when we work in organizations or if we're doing family things, it's always really cool when your teammates and your family members encourage you along the road. But there's something else you may or may not have noticed. Have you ever noticed how one leg of the V of the geese is always longer than the other? Have you ever wondered why that is? Well, it's simple. It's because it has more geese in the longer side of the leg. That's pretty good, isn't it? Well, I told that to Dad today. We were just going down memory lane, and of course he starts cracking up. Now, I could always tell a great joke when Dad was fixing to tell because he would actually start laughing before he got to the punchline. So as a son, I'm just so blessed to have a father like that. We have these memories together that we can talk about. I know that you're going to enjoy Scott Turner. I want to encourage you to stay all the way to the end. Why is that? Well, first off, it's going to benefit you because I know you're going to learn 2 or 3 things that will inspire and motivate you. Number two, I want to tell you about Success 2.0 and all the benefits that it has. So if you're a guest, I want to encourage you to stick around and hear why you might want to participate in Success 2.0. And then number three is we're going to be giving away a few of these Born to Win books at the end. So if you want to take a chance that you're going to win something today, make sure that you stay until the end. I will see you in a few minutes. Let's hear from Scott right now.
Well, hello everyone. I want to thank you and welcome you to tonight's webcast. It's such a privilege for me to be here tonight, and I thank you for joining in with us. I pray that your heart is encouraged as we start tonight. I have a question for all of the football fans that we have with us here. Have you ever been watching your favorite team on TV and you see the opposing team's wide receiver running down the field wide open, scoring touchdowns, catching the ball left and right, and it seems as if the defensive back on your team is nowhere in sight, not even the same screen, and he can't cover this guy, and you say, man, this guy is terrible. He can't cover anybody. Well, I want to come to his defense tonight since I played defensive back myself. The issue may not be a talent or physical problem, but instead an eye problem. When I was playing, I had a coach, and he used to always tell us whenever we would get beat on the pass, he would say, son, he's not faster than you. He's not tougher than you. You have an eye problem. Your focus is bad. And he would tell us to keep our eyes on our man and not the quarterback. He would go on to say the quarterback is not throwing to you. He's throwing to his guy. Keep your focus on him. If he goes up into the stands, he would say, and says hi to his mother, you go with him. If he goes to the bathroom, you follow him. Keep your eyes on him. Well, here lately, and in particular a few months ago, when the stock market fell 700 points in one day, and I know everyone remembers that, I was very upset and I was frustrated and worrying and saying, man, playing football all of these years, getting my body beat up, broke up, and doing my best to save and be a good steward over my finances, and now is this what it's all for? This economic downturn, this economic crisis, that's what I was thinking. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I had an eye problem. My focus was wrong. I was focusing on the storm. The storm causes confusion and chaos. Instead, I should have been looking through the storm and focusing on Christ and finding comfort and peace and courage in the midst of the storm. Because he's the one who can calm the storms of my life. He's the one that can say, peace, be still. I need to look through the storm and not to the storm. I have to readjust myself sometimes. I have to adjust my focus from time to time and make sure my eyes are in the right place. What about you tonight? I was working out with one of my buddies the other day, and we were having a hard workout, and everybody was complaining. And Frankie said, man, you know what? We're here. What are we going to do while we're here? And it reminds me of this wonderful scripture. In Psalms chapter 118, verse 24, it says this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Well, you know what? I rejoice tonight because I have this opportunity to stand before you. And you know what? It doesn't matter what the stock market does. It doesn't matter what the media says about the state of our economy here locally or globally. Sure, we're all affected in some way or another. But in spite of all of this, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because God in heaven has given us the breath of life and one more opportunity to live for Him, to honor Him, and to serve those that are around us. And not only that, but to make an impact in our generation. We're here today. Let's rejoice together. Let's be glad. It's another day in the storybook of your life and the storybook of my life. And it's my hope that my story and my journey will bless you. It will encourage you and challenge your hearts this evening. Well, I'm a Texas boy, born and raised here in Texas. Both of my parents were very hard-working people, and I loved them both very much. But unfortunately, when I was a young boy, around 10 years old, my parents were divorced. And I remember seeing my dad leave our house that day, and I asked my mom, Mama, where's Dad going? And my dad looked at me and said, you know what, Scott, everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be all right. But you know what, that was very difficult for me. It was traumatic in my life, and some of you may have even gone through the very same thing. But at that time, I felt a great peace. I felt like the hand of the Lord was in my life. But I had to make a very hard decision. I had to decide would I become a victim or a victor. Would I be a victim of my circumstances or victorious in spite of my circumstances? And you know what? I didn't know how to articulate it at that time. But I had dreams and I had goals even at a young age. And by the grace of God, ladies and gentlemen, I chose to be victorious and not let my circumstances dictate my destiny. So many times we allow our circumstances to dictate how we respond in life. But I try to say, you know what? I have dreams. I'm going to be victorious in spite of. When I was 13 years old, I had two major events happen in my life. I left my mom's house and I moved in with my dad. My mom was taking care of me and my infant sister, but it was very difficult for her at that time. She didn't have a lot. I was very involved in sports, and so I moved in with my father. But more importantly, at that time, when I was 13, I accepted Jesus Christ into my life as my Lord and my Savior. This was the greatest decision that I ever made. And during junior high and high school, I was a good boy. Church-going kid, parents always had me there. I never gave my parents any trouble, good grades, wasn't cheating in school, none of those things. But my heart wasn't totally committed. My mind wasn't made up yet. In 1990, I received a scholarship to the University of Illinois. At Illinois, I studied and graduated in speech communications, and I played football and ran indoor and outdoor track as well. I started my master's degree when I was there in human resource development, but I'm not quite finished yet. I'm supposed to be finished this September. And for those of you who have gone back to school after being out a long time, it's kind of difficult, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish because I started. Well, my freshman year at Illinois, I redshirted in football. And redshirt means that you practice, but you don't play. Essentially, you're a tackling dummy. You're a blocking dummy. You practice all week, and then when the varsity goes to the game, they leave you at home. But you have one more year of extra eligibility at the school. In my freshman year, I was hanging out with my friends, going to all the parties, and, just being a freshman football player on a Big Ten campus. But I was always in church, though, because that's what I knew. That's what I grew up doing. In 1991, at the University of Illinois, one of our coaches, his name was Coach Sherman Smith. He was a former NFL running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Sherman Smith was a tall, dark gentleman, bald-headed, wore little bitty glasses, and he never smiled. He was 6'4", 235 pounds, and had 19-inch biceps. Now here I am, 5'9", 172 pounds, and this coach comes out of his office and he says, "Scott Turner, come here. Come to my office." And he sat me down. Ladies and gentlemen, I was terrified. I was like, man, what in the world does Coach want with me? He looked at me, silent. And he spoke this. He said, "Scott, the hand of the Lord is on your life." He said, "There is a special plan for you today." He said, "I hear that you're a very respectful young man. You speak to all the church groups, the youth groups, etc. But let me tell you something, son. God knows what you're doing behind closed doors. He knows what your heart is. You need to stop playing. You need to stop messing around and make a decision to be the leader you are called to be." He challenged me to the very core of my being. That was the first time anyone ever spoke to me in that way. Well, this was the beginning of me being brought into my life to mentor me and to show me the way, and to help me be all that I was supposed to be, both on the field, but more importantly, in the game of life. They taught me how to live a life of integrity and how to be a man of my word at all times. Mentors are very important, people that we can emulate, people who have been where we want to go to help us and to teach us and to train us. Well, another gentleman, Aeneas Williams, around the same time I met Coach Sherman Smith, Aeneas came into my life, and at that time he was currently playing in the NFL. And he began to train me and mentor me in preparation for the NFL and the temptations that came along with it and the responsibilities that also came along with being an NFL player. He said, "Scott, the NFL is not like anything else in the world. As a Christian young man, you will go against the grain of what the NFL teaches." And he began to prepare me 2, 3, 4 years out. These two men came in my life at a very crucial time. And I know some of you may have people that have mentored you, that it came into your life and taught you. And I know, as I am, you're very grateful for those people in your life. Do not be afraid to allow people to speak into your life. Do not let your pride stand in the way of people putting wisdom, forging wisdom and character into your life like Sherman Smith and Aeneas Williams did for me. Well, during my time in Illinois from 1991 to 1994, I played several different positions. And a lot of people say, well, man, you're very talented. Well, that may be, but I said, this is a waste of time. I can't even get on the field. I went from defense to offense, running back, defensive back, wide receiver. And then on top of that, my sophomore year, I suffered a broken jaw. Now, a little side note. I don't wish a broken jaw on anyone. I was already 178 pounds, and I lost like 16 pounds. My mom and dad, when they saw me, they cried. They said, whose child is this? Well, here I am with a broken jaw. But when I was 10 years old, the day my father left my house, I told my mom, I said, Mama, one day I'm going to play in the National Football League. And she looked at me, she said, you can do anything you put your mind to. Well, broken jaw, missed most of the season. And you know what? That was a good time for me to give up. It was a good time for me to lay down and give up my dream and give up the vision that I had and to go in the tank. Broken jaw, not on the field, not playing, friends playing, advancing. That was a great opportunity for me to throw in the towel and to give up, but I didn't. I persevered and I kept my trust in the Lord and I didn't give in. And I want to encourage you tonight. Don't ever give up on your dreams. Never give up on your vision. But more importantly, never ever give up on God in heaven. He never changes. We change. We get down. We get discouraged. But He is always there for you and for me. Well, the next year, my junior year, they switched me again. The coach said, hey, we want to switch you to defensive back. But you know what? They switched me and I didn't see the field again. All I did was play special teams. And for those of you who don't know what special teams is, those are the guys who run down the field on kickoffs and punts and punt returns. You know, those kind of kamikaze guys that just run full speed and run into people. I did that all year, my junior year. Not one play of defense, not one. And you know what? I didn't understand. I didn't understand why I wasn't playing. But it proved to be very valuable in the days to follow. Because playing the special teams is what got me a look in the National Football League. Well, here we are, 1994, my senior year, and I won the starting job at defensive back. And you know what? I had never backpedaled a day in my life. I always ran forward my whole career, running the ball, catching the ball. But as a matter of fact, the first time I backpedaled in live competition, it was a spring game. I'll never forget this. The first time I backpedaled, I fell down in front of the whole team, people in the stands, everywhere. I fell on my bottom. But guess what? I didn't stay down. As soon as my butt hit the ground, I got right back up. And you know what? Sometimes in life, we're going to fall down. We're going to get scarred up. Our knees are going to get scratched. So we may even get cut a little bit. But the key is this, not to stay down, but to get right back up, dust yourself off, as my mother says, and get going again. I read a famous quote one time, very, very popular. It says this, champions don't give up, they get up. I'll say it again, champions don't give up, they get up. Are you a champion tonight? 1995, the NFL draft, NFL combine. It was my turn. And now let me tell you what the NFL combine is all about. That's where all of the teams in the NFL, they get together, coaches, general managers, scouts, owners, they all congregate in Indianapolis, Indiana. And they invite the top 500 NFL prospects that are in college that year. There's around 1 million to 1.5 million college football players, and they invite 500. So you have to get an invite to go to the combine. But let me tell you something, every player that has a dream of going to the NFL, you want to get invited to the combine because you can go and show your stuff. This is how fast I am. This is how strong I am. So you get the picture. The combine, that's the key to go to the NFL, so they say. Well, I remember I was in grad school at that time. And I would go to class and I would come home, and the first thing I would do is I would look in my mailbox every day, looking for my invitation. Go to class, come home, look at my inbox. Man, it's not there. All of my friends on the team, they started getting their invitations. We had the #1 defense in the country that year, and I was a starting corner. The linebackers, all these guys getting their invitations. Said, Scott, where's your invitation? I said, I don't know. And I would come home, look at my mailbox. No invitation. And I said, man, this must be a typo. Because I know I'm getting invited to the combine. I'm a starter on the #1 defense in the country. Well, guess what? No invitation. No all-star games. No nothing. Have you ever been in a place in your life where you were looking for something expecting something and it never came? What did you do? Let me tell you what I did. I would go to class like I was doing before. I would come home and I would put on my workout clothes and I would drive over to Memorial Stadium. Memorial Stadium was the stadium there in Champaign, seated about 80,000 people, football stadium. And I would get to that stadium. I remember to this day, I would look up to the top of that stadium and I would say, I'm going to get from here to there as fast as I can. And you know what? I would take out, boom, one step by one, two at a time, 3 steps by 3, over and over and over and over again until I couldn't feel my legs. One time I was running down and I fell and I tripped and I rolled, bumped my head, I was bleeding and I got back up and over again. All by myself. No one out there with me. In spite of having no invitation to the combine. In spite of looking in my mailbox every day and nothing coming. In spite of what people said or what they didn't say. But guess what? I had the breath of life in my body. I didn't have anything tangible to hold on to. No promises from teams or coaches telling me that I was going to get drafted. No phone calls from agents. But what I did have, ladies and gentlemen, was a vision and an unwavering faith in God. I was determined to be the best that I was supposed to be, the best that God had called me to be. And guess what? I refused to lose. I refused to throw in the towel and to give in. I had a vision, 10 years old. I knew what I wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to go. And guess what? Life is not easy. No one was telling me, hey, Scott, you can do it, in spite they were saying, give up. There's no way that you're ever going to go. But I was determined. Every step that I took, I grew stronger in my faith. I grew stronger mentally. I grew stronger physically. What about you tonight? When you face difficult times, or when you have those memorial types times in your life, those memorial stadiums in your life, you're saying, man, this is an insurmountable task. There's no way I can do this. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. What do? Well, let me encourage you. Get up off of that couch of despair. Roll out of that bed of depression and come up out of that cave of fear and anxiety and put on your fighting clothes. Face that situation head on and get to stepping one step at a time. And as you take every step, you will grow stronger in your faith, stronger mentally, stronger physically. You may not have anything to hold on to. You may not have anything tangible in your hands right now, but just put your trust in the Lord and hold on to Him. Hold on to His unfailing love and ask Him to give you a vision. A vision to help you keep on keeping on and have something to strive for and dream for and just wait. The phone of opportunity. It will ring. Mine did. My agent called me. Soon after the combine was over, all the guys went to work out. Everybody was coming back home. He said, Scott, 22 teams are coming to the University of Illinois. They're coming to work out your friends. You know, you have a lot of top prospects there at Illinois. But they said, if you want to work out, go ahead. You can too. Well, in spite of what their motivation was, I knew this was my opportunity. This was my opportunity to show them what I could do. All my friends ran the 40-yard dash. The 40-yard dash is kind of the litmus test for NFL teams. They want to see how fast you are because they think if you're fast and you have the ability to play in the National Football League. There is some truth to that, but there's other elements that make players great players. But the 40-yard dash, this was the test that day. Everybody ran before me. I was last. As a matter of fact, when it was my turn, they looked around and they would look back and say, hey, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Turner. Yeah, you come on. Well, let me tell you something. When I got on that starting line of that 40-yard dash, I didn't see 22 coaches. I didn't see 22 general managers or 22 teams. What I saw was 22 stopwatches. And I recall those days of running those stands in Memorial Stadium. And I got on that starting line and I looked down there to the end where I saw those stopwatches. I said, I'm going to get from here to there as fast as I can. And ladies and gentlemen, I took off, boom, down that line. And when I crossed the finish line, all I heard him say was, woo! I said, oh, this is going to be good. And I came back, they said, son, you ran a 4.24 in the 40. 4.24. And they said, where have you been? Where did you come from? And I looked at them, I said, I've been here the whole time. Y'all didn't send my invitation in the mail. And they started laughing and cracking up. Well, guess what? When I ran that time, I was 23 years old. And if you recall, I told my mama when I was 10 that I was going to the NFL. 13 years of preparation for 4 seconds. 13 years of preparation for 4.2 seconds. 13 years of not throwing in the towel. 13 years of not giving up and bowing down to what people said, to all of the doubt and criticism and negative talk in my life. 13 years for 4 seconds. Changed my life. How about you? How long are you willing to persevere? How long are you willing to hold on to your dreams and to your vision? Well, I went upstairs. Everybody was excited. I was in the coach's office, same place where Coach Sherman Smith had met me. And I went up there and I was talking to the secretaries and some of the other players. Everybody was jumping and clapping and yelling. It was a great time. It was a huge victory. Here's the underdog, the one who's not expected to go, and he runs one of the fastest times in the country, a 4.2. That's pretty fast if you don't know. And one coach came out of his office. As a matter of fact, he was my defensive coordinator. A person of influence in my life, a person who I played for every Saturday, who called the calls that we ran. He came out of his office. He said, what are y'all yelling for? He said, Turner, look, you're not going to get drafted. You're never going to play in the NFL. As a matter of fact, you only started 1 year. You're too small. You're too this. You're too that. Why don't you just try out for the Olympics? That's what you should do. He was my defensive coordinator. People have a tendency to dictate and to paint the picture of our life for us. And I looked at him and I said, Coach, with all due respect, my faith is not in you. My faith is in God. And I said, and not only that, I told my mama I was going to the NFL. I'm going. Well, I thought about this the other day. It's very ironic. Same coach's office. Same team, 2 different coaches at 2 different times in my life. One spoke life and encouragement, Coach Sherman Smith, and the other coach spoke defeat and discouragement. Both of which, ladies and gentlemen, I had to respond to properly. There may be people in your life that speak negatively. And guess what? We have to respond properly to what they say. What's your vision? Well, April 22nd, 1995. The Washington Redskins drafted me, pick number 226. And you know what? 226 is my birthday. I'll never forget that day. That was special. When I arrived in D.C. at the Washington Redskins, I had mentors to continue to train me and challenge me in my life. One man was named Tim Johnson. Tim was my teammate there at the Redskins. He had been playing already by 8 or 9 years. And Tim looked at me one day in minicamp. He said, son, there's a great plan for your life. He said, you're young, you're a rookie, you're learning. He said, why don't you come and live with me and my family? He said, you can live in my basement. And I know a lot of you said, in the basement, man, that's kind of cruel. Well, Tim's basement was about 2,200 square feet, and I had a big screen TV, living room, all that stuff, so I was kind of spoiled. But the point is, he brought me in to his family. And I learned what it meant to be a faithful husband. I learned what it meant to be a loving father and a faithful employee and a role model in the NFL. Tim helped to shape my very character. Another gentleman named Darryl Green, who played 20 years for the Washington Redskins. He began to train me on the field and also off the field. When I got my first signing bonus check from the Redskins, I'll never forget, he took me to Charles Schwab. And he said, you know what, you need to write out your tithe check and then put the rest of your money in the bank. And the lady who was helping us there, her name was Olga. And I remember some days I would take my check and take D. Green's check. You know, he trusted me to deposit his money in his account, of course, not mine, because I had to bring him the receipt. But anyway, I would deposit his checks, and Olga would look at my check, a rookie, and then she would look at D. Green's check, a 13-year veteran, and she would tell me, oh, Scotty, you'll get there one day. I said, Olga, thank you. I appreciate that. Very encouraging. But anyway, D. Green used to always tell me, quote, you must prepare to retire every year. Tim Johnson and Daryl Green, mentors in my life, taught me life skills, what it meant to be a man of my word, a man of faith, not only on the field but off the field, and how to be a leader. Well, I was released from Washington in 1998, and I went to the San Diego Chargers. And the first years at the Chargers, everything was going great. I was playing well, signed a new contract, had been nominated for the Pro Bowl a couple of times for special teams play. My wife and I, we were very involved there in the community. We were part of a church plant, and I was serving as an associate pastor. Everything was great. We hosted fellowships at our home for the players and their families. Everything was good. It was all good, as they say. Well, right before the 2000 season started, the Chargers informed my agents that they wanted me to take a pay cut. And I thought to myself, when you perform well, you're supposed to get a pay increase, not a pay cut. How many know what I'm talking about? And I told my agent, I said, tell them that I will take the pay cut and stay here in San Diego because I believe this is where we are supposed to be. And you know what? It was a great sacrifice. But it was more than just about the money. It was more than just about football and me. It was about the relationships my wife and I had formed in San Diego and in the community as well. Well, I ended up having the best training camp of my year. The best training camp I had ever had in my career thus far. And I started the very first game of the season against the Oakland Raiders and played well. But everything was going well until one game. I think it was the next game or 2 or 3 down the line. And I received a pass interference call. I'm a defensive back. Give me a break. We hold sometimes. It wasn't my fault. The ref just threw the flag. Well, I got this interference call, a penalty, and the defensive coordinator, something about those defensive coordinators, he took me out of the game. And the next week, not only was I not playing, but I developed a lung infection. And I had this lung infection for 12 weeks of the season. I had nurses coming to my home to administer breathing treatments. And I would do the same thing at the practice facility. Take a breathing treatment, go to practice. And you know, this was a very difficult time in my life. I lost my starting job. I was battling a lung disease. My teammates didn't understand what was going on. I took a pay cut, didn't know why. But you know what? Those were the times that I didn't have much strength. My motivation was low. I wanted to give in at times, but I kept my focus. I kept focusing on the Lord and His Word, and I leaned on those people that were close to me, in particular my wife and my pastor, David Soto in San Diego. With 2 weeks left in the season, I was all healed up, and I got a 75-yard interception for a touchdown to cap off the year. And so 2001, the next season came. I was set to be a free agent and hopefully sign back with the San Diego Chargers. Played well when they brought me back that year. But they had a different plan. When I went in to talk to them about my contract, they told me that they weren't going to sign me back. But instead, they were going to bring in 2 young guys to replace me. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Have you ever been in this place where they say, we got somebody to replace you? Even though you're doing a great job, hey, you know what? We'll save money, less production. That's okay. We'll save. That's what they told me. And I began to lobby for my position and for my contract and tell them, hey, this team, this is my team. The guys in the locker room, they're like sons to me. And they said, Scott, listen, you should retire and move on. You've had a great career. I was 29 years old. Then they finally told me this. It will be virtually impossible to bring you back. And I told them, no, I will be back. Well, that was in March of that year. And you know what? I didn't receive not one phone call from the Chargers or from any team for that matter. But I kept training. I kept preparing my body to play and be ready for the season because the phone could ring at any time. I was working out, training on the field, lifting weights in the gym. I was preparing myself. My wife and I, we still hosted fellowship at our house. And let me tell you something, feeding 30, 250, 300-pound men can get very expensive. Matter of fact, me and my wife have stock in Costco because they kept all these boys fed. But anyway, we were serving in the community. It was very difficult for us. And you know what? I didn't understand what was going on. I couldn't figure it out as hard as I tried. I couldn't figure out what was going on. All this money going out, no money coming in. I've been there. I played well that year, I would say to myself. I played well the year before. That means I'm supposed to sign a new contract with this team. And I remember times sitting in my office at home, spending my quiet time in prayer and studying the Word and speaking faith over my life and my situation and even crying. At times just tears. But I didn't ask why. Instead, I asked, Lord, what is it that you want me to learn? It was a perspective. I didn't sulk and say, Lord, I don't understand. Why? But instead, what do you want me to learn? I didn't lean on myself, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not that strong. But I trusted God in that situation. The players were getting down. They were asking me what's going on. And so what I did, I went over to the Chargers facility and I told the equipment manager, I said, listen, Bob, hold number 29 because I'm coming back. Well, the 13th week of the season, December 4th, 2001, my agent called and he said this, the Chargers want you back. And I said, you mean that same team that said it would be virtually impossible? He said, yeah, that team. When I walked in the locker room, ladies and gentlemen, my jersey and my uniform and my helmet and my shoulder pads were already set up in my locker and the players were floored. They were just amazed that it happened. Because in the NFL, it's very difficult to get back in once you're out. But to this day, guys that were in that fight with me, those guys that would come to my house, for those fellas here, we would talk about it this day and say, I remember when you were going through that hard time and you didn't give in. Y'all, sometimes we'll have situations in life and it'll be very difficult. And people will watch us to see how we're going to respond. What kind of witness will you be? What kind of soldier will you be? Will you be one who keeps his boots on the ground and is not wavered? Or will you be one that throws in the towel and says, I just don't know. I can't do it. What will your witness be? Those men to this day call me and say, Scott, I learned from you that even in the midst of difficulty, not to give in. This is 10 years, 12 years, whatever. They would call me, say, that was a great witness. Thank you for standing. Well, during this time, I learned great humility. What I had lived for and cherished so much had been taken away from me. And I had to take inventory of my life and see what really matters. I couldn't control the situation. All I could control was my actions and my responses. And during this time, I had the opportunity to serve my teammates who were playing every Sunday and doing what I wanted to be doing. It was very humbling, but I grew as a man because of this situation, and my priorities and my perspective was changed. I played the last 4 games of the season, and I started 2 of those games to boot. Well, 2002 came, and I was sure that this season would be different than the one before. I knew that the Chargers would see, hey, this guy's supposed to be on our team. But instead, they said, Scott, we're not going to sign you at all. And I wasn't signed back anywhere. I missed the entire season. And I'm thinking, is this happening to me again? There was no natural reason why I was not signed back, why I wasn't playing. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't injured, nothing. But I will say this, that during that time, great humility, perseverance, fortitude, patience, and faith were being forced into my life. And I would not take it back now one day again. Well, I received a phone call from the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people say, Buffalo, it's cold in Buffalo. Well, you know what? I didn't have a job. And they called me that December. And they said, Scott, we want to come and work you out. Well, I had been preparing myself, training every day the whole year of 2002 as if I was playing. And as a result of that workout, I was signed by the Buffalo Bills. I was ready and I had prepared myself. My wife and I moved to Buffalo, rented a house, furniture, took our car, and we still had a home in San Diego, so we had 2 of everything. But you know what? I was in Buffalo, had a great training camp. I was a quick fixture on the team. My wife and I, we were there. We were getting used to people there. And you know what? At the last minute, the last hour after training camp, I was released from the team. Didn't know why. I was sitting on the plane and my agent called me. They said, Scott, the Denver Broncos want to work you out. I flew to Denver as soon as I left Buffalo. And they said, Scott, well, you got to run a 40. I said, all right. I ran this 40, and ladies and gentlemen, I ran a 4.29. And you know what they told me? They said, Scott, you need to run again. There's no way you're running that fast. You're too old. And so I ran again. I was only 31 at the time. I ran again, and I ran the exact same time, 4.29. I want to add something here. When I went to Buffalo, I trained well. I practiced well. They released me. I continued to work out. When the Broncos called me, I didn't have to get ready, ladies and gentlemen. I was already ready. If you're waiting on something in your life, be active. If you're waiting on your opportunity to come, don't just sit around, but go out and prepare yourself. Do what you need to do so when that phone rings, you can pull the trigger and be ready. Well, while playing at the Broncos, I wrote a letter to then President George W. Bush. In that letter, I told him this. I said, thank you for your leadership. My wife and I were praying for you. And thank you for your family. And I shared a few scriptures with him. 2 weeks later, I received a letter back from him, thanking me for praying for him and thanking us that the nation prays for him, and thanking my wife and I for the example that we set in the NFL and in the community. And during this time, my last year playing for the Broncos, I also had an internship with Congressman Duncan Hunter from San Diego. Congressman Hunter was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. So I had the opportunity to work alongside with him and serve our nation's military, to serve our servicemen and women, to go on Codell tours, speak to the military, speak to the troops, work with the wounded guys. It was a great internship, a great time, and I learned a great deal from him. Well, soon thereafter, I retired from the NFL in 2005. I had an injury while playing for the Broncos, and I tore my hamstring tendon, and that was my last year in the NFL. I ran for the United States Congress in San Diego right after I retired. But before I ran for Congress, I wrote President Bush another letter, and I informed him of my retirement from football and my intentions to run for office. And he wrote me back and said, Scott, thank you for your willingness to run. And he says, you know what, it's going to get unnecessarily ugly at times. He was right. But your faith and your family will carry you through. And your fellow man is well worth the struggle. And then he told us he looked forward to meeting Robin and I one day. Well, my campaign was getting ready to be kicked off, and through my internship, I developed great relationships that people worked in Congress, worked in the political world, and I asked them for their advice. I asked them to help me to form my campaign. I needed a treasurer, I needed a consultant, and I went into this meeting before them, and this is what they told me. It will be impossible for you to run a campaign. And you know what I told them? You know what? I heard that before. I'm the wrong guy to tell something will be impossible. And they told me that I wasn't congressional material. And I told them I don't want to be congressional material. That's why I'm running. Have you been seeing the news lately? Well, I went home and I did something very ludicrous. I called the IRS and I stayed on the phone with them for 3 hours. No one in their right mind wants to talk to the IRS for 3 minutes. But after that, I became an official candidate. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I did not win the campaign. But we were able to challenge the paradigms and to encourage the hearts of the citizens in San Diego. And as a result, great opportunities to make an impact came from that race. After my campaign, I got a call from the White House. And they said, Scott, the president requests you and your wife's presence to come to the White House for dinner. My wife and I went to the White House, black tie, had her tux on. My wife had on the black dress. And when we arrived at the White House, they gave us 2 cards. One with her name, one with my name. One had table 11, one had table 7. And I said, honey, we're not sitting together. And I didn't want to, go complain to the lady because I was so grateful for being at the White House. But I went to her because my wife's kind of quiet and shy and I wanted to sit with her. And I said, ma'am, my wife and I aren't sitting at the same table. She said, Scott, that's a tradition here at the White House. Spouses sit apart from each other to learn other people, talk to other people. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, Robin, you're sitting at table 7. And Scott, you're sitting at the president's table. And I looked at her and I said, I know she's not talking to me. I know I'm not sitting with the president. I'm probably sitting in the back corner somewhere because I see a lot of famous people here. Well, indeed, I was sitting with the president. And President Bush leaned over at the table and he looked at me and said, Scott, and I said, yes, sir. He said, do you know why I wanted you to come here tonight and sit with me? I said, no, sir. He said, because of the letters that you wrote me, the words in the letter. Well, you know what? The words that were in those letters were just a result of the character that had been forged down inside of me by my parents, my coaches, Sherman Smith, Tim Johnson, Darrell Green, all of those men. And I want to tell you something tonight. Your character will open up doors for you that your name, your title, your money, your accomplishments can never open. Character is the most important thing we have. It takes years to build a reputation and to build your character, but only seconds to destroy. Character is the key. Well, my wife and I, we now live here in Dallas. I'm from here. We've loved being home. And I work with a great company here called Systemware Software Company, owned by my great friends Dan and Kathy Basso. Dan and Kathy Basso have served a tremendous blessing in my life as godparents, as mentors, since I was 15 years old. And you know what? They have supported me and helped me throughout my life and my career. You see this recurring theme of people coming into my life to help me along the way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you tonight very humble, a very grateful young man for the journey that the Lord has taken me on and for the things that I've learned and experienced along the way. But what about you tonight? What's your story? How is your vision tonight? How is your focus? Do you have an eye problem? Are you looking at the storm or are you looking through the storm? What really matters in your life? What's important to you? How's your determination tonight? Your ability to persevere and to never give in. In spite of trials and difficulties and hard times in your life, how is your perseverance? Are you determined? Do you have boots on the ground? Are you unwavering in your faith? You know, many times we try to lean on our own understanding and we rely on our own strength. But I have found that in the end, true victory and true strength is found in the Lord Jesus. Through all the storms in my life personally and all the difficult situations, all the trials and tribulations in my life when fear was trying to rob me of my joy and discouragement was gripping me in the midnight hour, I did not trust in myself. I trusted in God and I called on His name. And guess what? He never has forsaken me. He has never left me alone. I am not great. I am not strong, but He is. And guess what? I encourage you tonight to do the same. There's a great plan, ladies and gentlemen, for your life. A destiny for each of you. We are all unique. There is something for you. Doesn't matter where you've been. Doesn't matter the mistakes you've made. Where you've come from. Today is the day. What will you do? There's a plan for your life. Go get it. Don't leave it on the table. Go get it. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Tom Ziegler, and you know what? I am so glad that we just got to hear Scott. That was incredible. I heard that a while back, and it inspired me then, and it inspires me even more right now. We have some cool giveaways that I want to do, but before we get to that, I want to tell you just a little bit about Success 2.0. For all of you members, we're so glad that you're here, and you know that every month we give a special member bonus. I'll be telling you about that. But for our guests, here's what Success 2.0 is all about. Every month we have 2 live webcasts, just like today. And this one is, the live webcasts are always free. But for our members, we have some extra bonuses. We actually have a Ziegler library. We call it the Ziegler Success Institute. And in that, we have over 200 hours of our best audio and video content. Some programs you've probably heard of: Over the Top, How to Stay Motivated, Raising Positive Kids, Secrets of Closing the Sale. All these things from Zig and the rest of the Ziegler team, Brian Flanagan. And of course, we've done now over 75 of these live webcasts that we do. We've been doing them for 3 years, and we have those recorded and placed into the Ziegler Success Institute. So as a member, you get access to those 24/7. And that's almost total when you add it all up. I said 200 hours. That's closer to 300 hours of life-changing material that you can access online anywhere in the world. We also have a members-only success forum where you can come in and post and get questions answered and things like that. We send out every month a personal development plan and a professional development plan. So if you're trying to go to the top, achieve a new level of success, we give you a step-by-step guideline that you can study from every single month that you're involved in it. And as a member, you can also download 1 hour of content every month onto your iPod. So while you can download all the webcasts that we've recorded anytime you want, any of the other content that's normally for sale, you can get an hour of that each month. So what does this really mean? Well, we have over $6,000 worth of content in our Ziegler Success Institute. And what we do is we make that available on a trial membership. So if you want to test Success 2.0 out for 30 days, you can get access to everything I just talked about for just $1. Now, Tom, why do we do that? Some people ask that. I get emails about that, and it's real simple. It's because, quite simply, it's a bribe. That's right, it's a bribe. The reality is not everybody learns the best from online materials. We want you to have complete access so you can decide for yourself. For that $1, 30 days, you get to try it out. And then if you continue on, you want to stay a member, you love it, it's $37 a month or $370 if you want to pay for the whole year up front. Plain and simple, that's what it's all about. We also have, for our members, we have a bonus this month. So this is an extra download. You can download Dad's incredible presentation on planning, preparing, and expecting to win. Dad recorded this some time back. You'll be able to take this with you anywhere you go if you're a member. So that means for you who are interested in trying out the trial, you can actually do the trial for $1 and you're going to get this bonus download. Now, in order to get this bonus download, you need to go ahead and register in the next 2 days. We're going to send you out an email right after this letting you know how to do that. But you need to register right away because it does have a timeline on it. All right, well, we've got a bunch of questions and more questions are coming in. But before we do that, let's give away the new book, Born to Win. This book came out in January. We've gotten tons of fantastic feedback. If you want more information on the book, you can go to borntowinbook.com. In fact, there's over 100 testimonials there about the book from a lot of people you've probably heard of: Dave Ramsey, Seth Godin, Lou Holtz, Ken Blanchard, kind of the who's who in inspiration and motivation, successful business people, coaches, people of all different careers. The book really covers how to plan, prepare, and expect the best for your life. So in the question box at the top, we're going to take the 5th, the 10th, and the 15th person to send in the question box, I am born to win. I am born to win. So if you want to go ahead and do that now, then if you're a winner, we're going to email back to you at the end if you won. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about these questions. This person, Zen, says this. He says, how do I overcome my own worst enemy, me? I know what to do, but I don't do it. That's everybody's own worst enemy. When we talk about leadership, it's the man in the mirror you've got to lead. When we talk about being the best in sales, it's the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror that you've got to convince. Dad says that our self-image sets the boundaries of our success. What does that mean? It means that how we feel about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, really determines the boundary of how successful we can be. So here's the cool thing. My favorite Zig quote of all. You are who you are and what you are because of what has gone into your mind. You can change who you are and you can change what you are by changing what goes into your mind. So that means that if you look in the mirror and you're unhappy with who you are, guess what? That's okay. You don't have to stay there. You can improve. You can refuse to lose. You can put in the extra energy and effort. But it's not going to happen unless you change the input that's gone into your mind, because you're the sum total of all your experiences. How you were raised, how you were schooled, the mentors or lack of mentors, the parenting or lack of parenting, all those things contributed to who you are today. So then, in order to get to the right place, to do the things that you know you should do, you've got to change that input. And let me give you a Tom Ziglar quote. If you got a pen out, you might want to take this down because mine aren't as simple as Dad's. This is a little philosophical. Here it is. Your dreams are the edges of the puzzle of your life. One more time. Your dreams are the edges of the puzzle of your life. Okay, let's dig a little deeper on this. What does that mean? Well, let me ask you a question. When you do a tabletop puzzle with all those pieces, 100 pieces, 500 pieces, how do you put it together? Well, most people, myself included, what we do is we quickly find the edge pieces. and we take the edge of the puzzle and we fill it in, right? The second thing that we do is we look at the colors that are in the puzzle or the major features of the puzzle. For example, if the puzzle features a white horse, we take all the white pieces and we put them together, and then we look closely to determine which ones are the horse, right? So your own life is the same way. So you're stuck in this repetitive motion of not achieving what you want. Well, have you really put together your dreams? Have you filled in the edges of what you want to be, do, and have? Have you thought about where you want to go, who you want to be, how you want to influence people, the things you want to achieve? When you put those dreams in, your mind suddenly gets a picture. It starts to fill in the puzzle. You fill in the puzzle on the outside, then you work on your core components. You look at yourself, your education, your relationships. These are all puzzle pieces. And as you fill those in where you are right now, you can see the connections from where you are. You've got to put in the puzzle pieces to get to the edges. Okay? So if you're stuck where you are, that's okay. Do two things. First, work on the dreams that you want to accomplish. Really understand them. Understand where you are and where you're going to want to go. Number two, change the input into your mind. Okay, we have a question from Nigeria. Arongunde. I'm sorry, I'm probably not saying your name right, but that is a really cool name. It's the first time I've ever heard it. Glad you've joined us today. It says, when is the point of success that somebody can say, I'm successful? Okay, I'll answer that one first. If you go to, and I got this at the break, this is Dad's book, Over the Top. If you go to page 11, it says, you're at the top when. And he writes 15 things down. Now, I'm going to only read a couple of them, but for everybody here who's listening, what we will do, if you will send in to, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and we will send an email out to everybody who's registered for this webcast, and we're going to include this. So just be ready if you're on this. We're going to send this out. It's a little bit of bonus. But here's some of the things that it talks about. You clearly understand that failure is an event, not a person, that yesterday ended last night, and today is your brand new day. So these are things that help you understand if you're a success. You have made friends with your past, are focused on the present, and optimistic about your future. See, until you can do that, you're not really successful. You know that success, a win, doesn't make you, and failure, a loss, doesn't break you. There's 15 of these. Number 13, I love this one. You know that he who would be the greatest among you must become the servant of all. There's 15 of these. We're going to send these out. And Arogunde, you asked, how could we get Zig to come to Nigeria? Well, Dad is no longer, because of health reasons, he's no longer able to travel and go out and speak. So, unfortunately, the best way to bring Zig to Nigeria is through a webcast like this. I know he'd think it'd be pretty cool to go there. And we could do a video, or maybe I could do a presentation, or one of our other people could do a presentation for you. If you're interested in that, just reach out to us as well. Let's see. Carrie from Midland says, what scriptures do you use to encourage and motivate yourself? Well, I've got my life verse is kind of strange because it's a very real verse. It's James 1, 2, and 3. And here's what it says. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. So here's the thing. You know, we talk around Ziglar. One of Dad's Zig quotes is, life is tough. But the tougher you are on yourself, the easier life will be on you. Fred Smith, Dad's mentor, said this. He said, you grow the food you will eat on the mountaintop. You grow that food in the valleys of your life. So when we're going through a tough time, I just remind myself that when I'm going through a tough time, when hardship and sickness and maybe business trials or things are going on that I just don't like, I realized that those things are called to a purpose to help me develop and be better. I have a hope that things are always going to improve. And as a believer, I believe I've got an eternal hope. But whether you're a believer or not, just remember this. The tough times of life, how we respond to those, it's just like making a sword. You've got to get the raw materials, the ore, and you put it in a furnace and you burn away the impurities, and then you beat it over an anvil. That's how you make a strong sword, a samurai sword, is you constantly fold the metal on itself. And then once you've got the shape, you grind it on a grindstone. And then you polish it, and then you grind it, and then you polish it. As people, that's the process we go through in life. And no matter how tough it is right now in the moment, when we realize that we are being perfected for something awesome, to complete our purpose, to encourage and build